Hi guys, this is Tablet-News.com and I'm here with the Samsung Galaxy Note 4 for a full detailed review. This product was announced at IFA 2014 and it's Samsung's flagship phablet for this year. It's a Quad HD device with metal edges and the price tag for this device in USA is $750. I have to say that when I did the unboxing, I have to make a bit of mea culpa. I said this one was the Snapdragon version. Well, it's actually the Exynos version, not the Snapdragon one. It's codename N910U, it has an 8-core CPU and it's actually a 64-bit processor that has been locked into 32-bit mode. But more about that later. Let's discuss the design. So we're dealing here with a phablet that measures 8.5 millimeters in thickness. It weighs 176 grams and it has a metal frame, as you can clearly see by its shining areas in this area here and this here. As I said, metal edges, metal frame, and at the back you'll find leather imitation just like the Note 3 but without the stitching. I have to say that we got good grip on this model in spite of it being so wide, and sadly its edges are quite rough. The metal edges will tend to cut into your palm, especially after using the device for a long time. The product comes in white, pink, black and gold bronze. It's a bit heavier than the Note 3 by a few grams. It weighs 176 grams versus 168 grams of the predecessor. It's also 5 millimeters shorter than the iPhone 6 Plus and 1 millimeter less wide than the iPhone 6 Plus. It doesn't have very slim bezels compared to the modern standards, and apparently at the front there is a curved glass used. I also have to say that the edges of the device are slightly raised in order to protect the screen area. And also, if you run your finger over the edge, you risk peeling off a layer of skin. So that's what I said, the edges kind of cut into your skin. Of course, when I say cut, I mean a mild cut. The device feels pretty solid and frankly speaking, it's not very comfy for one-hand use. As you can see, you can't exactly reach all areas, but it's a phablet, so we have to live with that. Now let's see, at the front we got a 5.7-inch screen. There's an earpiece at the top. There's a front camera right here. We got the sensors, proximity sensor and ambient light sensor. We got a notification LED right about here with a light that once it shines, it makes the plastic look cheaper. And a thing I don't like very much about this model is that we have a line pattern all across the white surface here at the front, bottom and top. I don't know if you can see it, but there are lines all across the device, making it feel a bit cheap. We got a home physical button here that offers very good feedback and very good response. We got a back button here and a recent button here, both of them capacitive, both of them with good feedback. There is an aluminum accent around the home button. Let's move to the back, where you can find the main camera, the LED flash, and next to it we got the pulse sensor that's also used for other purposes. You can measure your oxygen level in your blood, your stress level, and many more. We got a stylus here at the bottom, but more about it later. And we got the speaker right here. Now let's see what else. Since we're messing about at the back, let's remove the back cover and see what's under the hood. Okay, so what we got here is a micro SD card slot. We got here the micro SIM card slot and the battery. Apparently to insert the micro SIM you need to remove the battery. So that's everything that's under the hood. It's easy to remove this plastic cover, also easy to put back. And keep in mind that this model is not waterproof, unlike the Galaxy S5. Getting back to the design, at the top we find the audio jack, a microphone and the infrared emitter. At the bottom, two microphones here and here and the micro USB port. On the left we got a unified volume button, quite thin but with good feedback, and on the right side the on-off button, also with good feedback, and it's a bit lower than we expected. Okay, we got rounded corners for this model, but we also got straight edges and it feels quite heavy in the user's hand. At least Samsung has improved the grip and the resilience, and this model may not be elegant and people have been complaining about gaps in this area between the screen and the edges, but frankly speaking they're not a problem for me. As I said, this is an inelegant device, but it's much more grippy and more solid than its predecessors. Now as far as the hardware is concerned, we got a 5.7-inch screen. It's a Quad HD display, Super AMOLED, with a resolution of 2560 over 1440 pixels. This stands for 515 ppi density. Inside the phone, as I told you before, we got an octa-core Exynos 5433 processor, which uses 4 cores of the Cortex A53 kind, clocked at 1.3 GHz, and 4 cores of the Cortex A57 kind, clocked at 1.9 GHz. The GPU is a Mali T760, and as far as the storage is concerned, on this model we get 32 GB of storage, as well as the micro SD card slot with support for up to 128 GB. There is also 3 GB of RAM. And now as far as the cameras are concerned, we got a 16 megapixel camera here with smart optical image stabilization and a 3.7 megapixel camera right here. On the connectivity side, there is Wi-Fi 802.11, ABGN AC, 2x2 MIMO, and also NFC, Bluetooth 4.1, micro USB 2.0, this time not 3.0, with MHL 3.0, infrared, LTE category 4 on this model. If you buy the Snapdragon model, you get LTE category 6. There is also HSDPA, Wi-Fi Direct, USB on the go, GPS and GLONASS. There is also a section called Others that includes stuff like accelerometer, gyroscope, proximity sensor, compass, barometer, UV sensor, heart rate sensor, O2 saturation sensor, and finally the fingerprint scanner in this area here. And now the battery, well, this one is a 3220 mAh unit, also a unit with 3.85 volts and 12.3 Wh. The Galaxy Note 3 had a similar battery, a 3200 mAh unit. On paper, this battery should provide you with up to 20 hours of talk time or 82 hours of music. And now let's see how it did in our test. So our test involves looping a video HD sample with Wi-Fi on and brightness of 50%, and I mean here the brightness when using the manual setting here, not the auto one. So let's see what we achieved. We actually did 2 tests. This is test number 1 that offered us 8 hours and 30 minutes from 100% to about 6%, and we also did a second test after performing a software update that you can see here. This is the update, and we've heard that it will improve the battery, so we did a test again, and guess what, once again 8 hours and 30 minutes of continuous HD video playback with Wi-Fi on and brightness at 50%. Meanwhile, the Galaxy Note 3 had 9 hours and a half, the iPhone 6 Plus offers 12 hours, and the sacrifice that makes us achieve so little time is the one made for the Quad HD screen and the octa-core CPU. Meanwhile, the charging is very impressive. It took us 1 hour and 40 minutes to charge this handset from 5% to 100%, which is very okay. There is also a fast charging technology that you probably heard about. So with the fast charge, in about 30 minutes, you'll be able to achieve 50% battery, which is hugely impressive. If you look at the charger supplied with the device, you'll see written on it that there are 2 charging values. There's 9 volts and 1.64 amperes, and there's 5 volts and 2 amperes. So the charger will switch from one to the other to perform fast charging. The battery life could be better, but we still got about a day and a bit of regular usage, or even a day and a half. And I mean regular usage like phone calls, web browsing, some YouTube, games and things like that. And now if you go into the settings area, power saving, there's the fast charging feature here, but also the usual power saving features. We got power saving mode with the option to restrict background data, as shown here, restrict performance with a variety of sub settings like limit CPU performance, decrease screen brightness, turn off touch key light, and turn off GPS if you want to. And then let's see what else we got here. There's the grayscale mode that basically makes everything black and white and saves power. And then we got the ultra power saving mode, the famous one, with the simplified grayscale interface and the ability to access only essential features like phone, messaging and internet. With about 20% or 30% you get 1 day of usage if you keep everything to a smaller usage pattern. I would have to say that the battery charging here is excellent. I would say that 1 hour and 40 minutes is an excellent time to charge a battery for a phablet, and the battery is pretty much okay considering all the extra feature it gets, considering we get ultra power saving, lots of power saving options, very good charging, and as I said, 1 day and a bit of regular usage. However, those 8 hours and a half aren't going to change, so I will only call this an OK battery. People have been wondering about the SAR level. Well, this model achieves a SAR level of 0.37 watt per kilogram. And now on the acoustic side, let's access the music player. Nothing has changed here. We got the usual selections of playlists, tracks, album, artists, folders or devices. And then there is also the music square that divides the music you have on your device by mood. And you should probably know that as I said, the music player has not been changed a bit. So let's listen to some tunes and see what's happening here. So let's play this one. Speakers here. Okay, now some conclusions. So, using this speaker here, we achieve a crisp sound, loud and clear, very good bass. I would say that the performance is pretty much on par with the Galaxy S5, if not slightly better. It's also better than the iPhone 6 Plus clearly, a bit better than the Galaxy Note 3, and we have a warm voice and good bass. We also have special settings, including these ones here. We have tabs, playlists and Sound Alive. Sound Alive is basically your equalizer on steroids. We got an auto mode and we got these customizable modes here that will tweak the sound depending on the instrument you want to hear or various genres. We also have effects, tube amp, virtual 7.1, small room, large room, concert hall, and then we move on to advanced. We have 7 custom channels, we have 3D, bass and clarity, so there is a lot of stuff to play with here, but this area hasn't been changed for about 2 generations of handsets now. We have adapt sound that will allow you to listen to a series of sounds in order to tweak your audio experience. We got play speed, lyrics and smart volume that basically equalizes all the tracks to the same level. And now we can't forget the headphones, so let's check them out. Here they are. They got a tangle-free wire and they go pretty deep in the user's ear. They're pretty much unchanged from the Galaxy S5 and Note 3 if you ask me. They go a bit deep in the user's ear. As I said, some people like the headphones to be more exteriorized, like the AirPods. I would say that they're comfy. They have a big remote here, which is not exactly a bad thing if you're jogging and not finding your remote. We have this play pause button, the volume buttons, and the tangle-free wire is always helpful. These headphones provide perfect bass. They're very loud, very clear, and offer perfect isolation so you don't hear anything from the exterior. Also, they offer a very good percussion, so that's nice. Overall, the acoustics are very fine on the Galaxy Note 4. They surpass the iPhone 6 Plus. They're equal to the Galaxy S5, but they're lower compared to the iPhone 6 in my opinion. This player supports FLAC files, and we also use the special decibel meter to measure the performance of the device. And here it is. We achieved 89.5 decibels at the back of the device. And at the front we achieved 85.6 decibels. For the sake of comparison, the LG G3 scores 87 decibels, so we beat it. The iPhone 6 Plus 83 decibels, we beat it again. And the LG G2 Pro, for example, 85 decibels, so yet again we beat it. This is almost the best model we've tested as far as decibels go. However, I would still place it below the HTC One M8 and the iPhone 6. That doesn't mean that the acoustics aren't very good, which they are. And now let's move over to the screen and video area. We're dealing here with a Quad HD screen, a Super AMOLED that you can see is very bright and crisp, 5.7 incher, and a density of 515 ppi, Gorilla Glass 3 protection. And now let's check out the video player that we got here, and as usual it will be offering you a playlist. As far as I know, it should also show animations of these videos. Anyway, let's start playing a video, our usual test video. Here we go. Obviously there are the usual options and commands. For example, you can pinch to zoom, which is actually useful on a Quad HD screen, not very useful on a Full HD screen. We have options for the crop of the image. We also have the famous pop-up play in this player. As far as I've heard, you can even play 4K files on this device without problems. And now, as far as the options are concerned, we got edit, share, delete, listen via Bluetooth, and of course settings. Those include a mini controller, brightness, capture, play speed, adapt sound, sound alive, with some special options for the acoustics. And then let's see what else. AMOLED cinema, that is actually felt. If you activate it, everything becomes more crisp and more vivid. If you deactivate it, everything becomes more bland. And finally, subtitles. Okay, now let's judge the image that we're dealing with here. Okay, so the experience, the colors will tend to pop out. The screen is very bright. We have wide viewing angles, not as wide as an IPS, but still pretty wide. Super AMOLED has come a long way. In case you're thinking that these colors are oversaturated, you can customize the experience from settings. And once again, very bright colors pop out and the black is very deep. You can also use the S Pen from the back in order to preview areas of the video. So video is playing and you do something like this. You can view previews of what's coming next. Okay, so we put the stylus back here, and now let's discuss some technical aspects regarding the screen. First of all, it has diamond-shaped pentile matrix pixels. These are the pixels I'm talking about. And also you should know that the AMOLED light will light up certain parts of the screen, so the black part is not lighted. That's what makes the black more deeper on this device. So as I said, the AMOLED panel will only light up the colors, while the black stays unlighted, and that's why it's deeper. I must say that this screen is very crisp. However, I don't feel the jump from Full HD to Quad HD, which is something I also said on the LG G3. The text is certainly crisper than on the iPhone 6 Plus, that's for sure. And now let's see even more tests. So we use the lux meter. You can see it right here. We achieved 404 lux units on white, which doesn't sound that impressive when you think that the iPhone 6 Plus scored 605 lux units, while the Galaxy S5 scored 480 lux units. So at 404 lux, we're behind the iPhone 6 Plus by 200 lux and behind Galaxy S5 by about 76 lux. And now let's explain the aspect of the brightness slider. So as you can see, we got it here. Right now it's in the manual setting and it's all the way to the maximum. You can also apply the auto setting that has a new and interesting area. That's the standard, the default. You can go back a few steps. However, now once you're using the auto setting, you can actually add some extra levels of brightness for an increase. Frankly speaking, I did not feel the difference between auto and extra 5 levels and manual maximum. I see people on the web saying that if you add these little 5 levels, you get more brightness than on the manual maximum. Look at it. I frankly find the manual maximum to be higher than the auto maximum, in spite of what people are saying. Okay, so that's it about the screen. I'm pretty unhappy with it in the full sunlight, I have to say that. I've been using it in sunlight. I've heard people praising its contrast. Well, it doesn't behave that well in the full sunlight. And now we go to the settings. See what's happening here. Display and wallpaper. You can tweak brightness, wallpaper, fonts, and we have a special one-handed operation mode available here. Okay, so what we do here, you can reduce screen size with a very nice gesture. So it goes something like this. Here we go. This is the one-hand mode. You reduce the screen size. It's basically like you're using a smaller smartphone. You can enlarge it back and see even more settings for the screen. So that was one-handed operation thing number 1. Number 2 is one-handed input, which allows you to align the keyboards more comfortably. And then there is the side key panel. You can give up using the home button, recent button and back button, and opt for this area here, which is the side key panel that you're seeing here. Kind of useless if you ask me, but some people want to take it to the next level. We got smart stay, when the screen stays on as long as you're looking at it, screen timeout, and finally screen mode. Those of you complaining about oversaturation, as I said earlier, can tweak the display like this. So you can go from adaptive display to AMOLED cinema, making the colors pop out, AMOLED photo for a more realistic option, and finally basic for the standard option. Adaptive display will adapt to the experience, so if you're in the photo gallery, for example, or in a game, the colors should be more vivid. We got an LED indicator, touch key light duration, and the option to increase touch sensitivity if you're wearing gloves. I have to say that in spite of what the previous measurement showed, 404 lux units, I feel that the screen is giving out more light than we tested. I feel it's a 500 lux unit screen, but that's my personal feeling. Anyway, the screen is very good in every aspect: viewing angles, brightness, colors, customization. However, it's not that good in contrast and sunlight. As we said, it's our opinion. I've seen everybody praising its contrast. Well, not for us. Now, as far as the camera is concerned, what we're dealing with here is a 16 megapixel back shooter with smart optical image stabilization, a 16:9 sensor, and f2.2 aperture. This aperture is the same as the one of the Galaxy Note 3, and the front camera comes with the f1.9 aperture, and also it has a 120-degree wide angle. The back cam does phase detection autofocus, which is basically the same technology as on the Galaxy S5 but faster. The phase detection will separate the light from the lens extremities and will compare the beams to see how imperfect they are, how out of phase they are. Okay, so it also uses focus elements, the lenses, to align them and cancel the lack of phasing. I hope you got that. That's basically, in a nutshell, the feature that we know as phase detection. The sensor here is the Sony IMX240. It has a 31mm equivalent focal length, and it measures about 1/2 of an inch or so. It also offers pixels that measure 1.12 microns. So let's see the camera interface using this castle here. This is the UI. It's pretty straightforward at first sight, and you should also know that smart optical image stabilization manages to counterbalance the camera shake and extend the exposure time in dark areas. So the UI, well, what we got here is a custom left side, and when I say custom, I mean I can drag and drop stuff to this area in order to customize the shortcuts. Let's get back to it. By default, we have a shortcut to the front camera, we have HDR on or off, and the settings area. There are two versions of the settings area: the simple one with the resolution, effects, timer and flash options, and the more complex one that holds all the main options. This one includes exposure, ISO, white balance, metering modes that you can see here. And then we have HDR, tap to take pics, video size. You can film in UHD, which is 3840 over 2160, or WQHD, which is 2560 over 1440, or go full HD. There's also the recording mode. We have normal, we have slow motion with 3 options. You slow down 2 times, 4 times, or 8 times. Fast motion, the same, 2 times, 4 times, or 8 times. And smooth motion, which is basically 60 frames per second, full HD video. There's also video stabilization, location tags, grid lines, voice control, volume key assignment, and the option to review pics, and finally reset settings. So those are the options available here. We also have video shutter, a photo shutter, the modes, and also the shortcut to the gallery. Now let's check out the modes. So we got auto, we got beauty face, we have shot and more. You probably know them from other reviews and other devices. We have the rear cam selfie, which is new, and it will fit your face into a square and use it to take a selfie shot. We have selective focus that will show later, panorama, virtual tour, dual camera, animated photo, which is basically a GIF, sports, sound and shot, surround shot, food, sequence shot, and probably more modes will come soon as downloads. So let's switch to auto and find out more about this camera. Okay, so a few things to mention here. This camera is very fast, both when it comes to taking pictures and when it comes to focusing and when it comes to activating the camera feature. And I must also mention that the zoom goes up to 8x, 8 times. So let's actually view the pictures I've taken. This is a 16 megapixel shot taken in a hurry, very good level of detail, pretty low noise unless you really start to zoom in order to catch all the small details, like the tip of a tower that you can see right here. So picture I've just taken, and pretty good level of details. Now as far as the front camera is concerned, you also have some interesting features to play with here. We have the wide selfie, more options available here, beauty face, tap to take pics, and beauty face will show you a slider that will beautify your face. And the modes include wide selfie, as I said, and sound and shot, and a few more. Okay, I just took a selfie by mistake. We just saw the front camera. It's certainly better than the front camera on the Galaxy Note 3 and the Galaxy S5, that's for sure. We leave this behind now, going beyond the castle, and we're going to enter the gallery to check out the huge number of shots we've taken over the past days in order to test the camera. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to start with this image here. It's a simple picture taken in portrait, however, this is its HDR version. It's very subtle and very well lighted, and it gets the details better out of the cross. Because here it's darker, you cannot see the cross properly, but with HDR everything comes to light better. Okay, we proceed. These are daytime shots, keep that in mind. Everything is crisp, beautiful, colors are realistic and vivid at the same time. The level of detail is stunning, and even when you zoom in, there is not exactly much noise. I would say that overall the camera quality during daytime is just like the one of the Galaxy S5, if not slightly better. We also have a very good and wide panorama. As far as I know, you can go up to 56 megapixels, as far as I know. And once again, very good level of detail in the panorama. Going even further, I promised you to detail the selective focus thing, and that's exactly what I'll do here. So we have a picture of Winnie the Pooh and Tiger, and using selective focus, you can actually choose what to focus on. We have the near focus on the tiger or the far focus on Winnie the Pooh. We can also pan focus on both of them, and that's pretty much it. Selective focus in a nutshell, allowing you to reselect your focus after the shot is already taken. We proceed further and enjoy these wonderful shots of these toys. Great colors, very crisp, very well lit. So truly a very good camera. I could even say it's the best camera on an Android device right now, and I mean flagships here. And let's see more. We have no noise. I even tested the zoom at some point. I saw an interesting piece of vegetation, this red one here. I started zooming in and reached this point without too much noise, which is pretty impressive. Okay, let's see more stuff here. Even more colored shots, looking great. We should also see some animated photos in here at some point, so let's find them. We got this shot right here. It's an animated photo, as you can see, people riding bikes. I find it hard to think if it's the sequence shot or the GIF shot. Anyway, you get the idea. You can also tweak it by pressing this button. You can trim it and compare it. Anyway, moving shot right here, it can either be GIF or sequence. This is the sound and shot. You can hear people talking, you can hear the wind while checking out the picture. We already saw HDR, and now let's see some shots taken under the bridge, which clearly means low light condition. And both with flash and without, I would say that the quality is good. And now we move on to the colors of the fall. These are the ducks from a distance. Now with zoom in, pretty impressive. Various levels of zoom for the same ducks. And still the noise only appears when you go up to 6 times zoom or something like that. I would also say that the stitching is very good when taking a 360-degree panorama. This is it, by the way, 360-degree panorama. Pretty good stitching, aside from this bench here. Don't exactly know what happened. Anyway, you get the point, and that surround shot was nice. Okay, let's see more. We even have a bird shot at some point that we can actually play through as if it were a movie. Here we go. This is how we played the bird shot. Pretty impressive, right? And we go on with a list of shots taken different flowers and fountains. One aspect to notice here is the excellent shutter speed. It manages to capture the water drops in mid-air, so that's an excellent shutter time and shutter speed. And now the inevitable macros of flowers. Very good colors, very good details, nothing to complain about here. We have a perfect exposure, perfect white balance and brightness. I would say that this model, the Galaxy Note 4, is about 40% better than the Galaxy Note 3 and about 10% or 15% better than the Galaxy S5. It's about on the same level as the Sony Xperia Z2 or just a bit better. It's clearly above the iPhone 6 Plus or the iPhone 6, just in case you were wondering. And now we have reached the inevitable nighttime shots. And here we go. First of all, it was a very windy night, pretty much a storm, so let's give it some circumstances. Anyway, I have to say that I'm pretty disappointed. As you can see, the pictures taken with flash may look impressive, but when you start zooming in, not everything is as good as it looks. So once again, photos taken at night, with or without flash, slightly underwhelming. And the iPhone 6 Plus, for example, is clearly better when it comes to nighttime capture. As you can see, there is a lot of yellow here, yellowish hues, and the flash is exaggerated in this shot. Also yellowish hue here, not so much level of detail here, some noise happening, videos later. These are the colors. When you're using the flash, the colors are okay. When you're not, they're a disappointment. Here we go, with flash, without flash. Some more shots, obviously with flash, this one, and without this one. This is where you can see how powerful the flash actually is. And that's the shot without it. Once again, I'm disappointed by the nighttime capture. It's below the Xperia Z2 and the iPhone 6 Plus, and the flash feels too strong at some point. And the ones taken regularly are pretty much noisy. An aspect that I forgot to mention before, when you're doing selfies, you can press the heart sensor to actually take the shot. So that's an important thing I forgot. And now let's move forward to the videos, the very important aspect of the videos. So let's take them one by one. So I'm going to start with the very first one, taken near a church. It's Full HD, 30 frames per second. It's crisp, it's bright, it's well lit, it has vivid colors. And then we move further to a second video. This one is WQHD. And also it's taken with the sunlight straight ahead of me. It should create problems, but it doesn't, which is a huge compliment. The audio is captured in stereo. And now we have a sample of optical image stabilization as I'm climbing a hill. And I'm walking pretty briskly to test the stabilization of the camera. I cannot say it's above the iPhone 6 Plus that also had a very good stabilization, but it can handle the competition pretty well. I would say it's the best optical image stabilization on flagship Androids. It may have to fight the Galaxy K Zoom for that title, but among Androids it's very good when it comes to stabilizing an image, especially when climbing a hill. Okay, that's the stabilization test. And now we go to 4K videos, such as this one. A bit of trouble with the focus at first, but then the 4K comes into play. And since we're using 4K, we may as well zoom on the pigeon right here. And the quality is mind-blowing. And we have yet another 4K sample here to play with. Very good exposure, white balance, focus and brightness. And then we have a Full HD shot with zoom. This time we're testing the zoom on a Full HD capture, not the 4K one, to see if it's as good. And as you can see, pretty impressive. A bit more noise than the 4K one, obviously, but that's the risk. We even tested the slow motion, we couldn't help it, so this is slow motion, 240 frames per second, as far as I know. 1/8 the normal speed, and then 1/4 the normal speed. And then fast motion. Obviously, we also tried the smooth video. That's very impressive. Higher frame rate, higher bit rate. Everything looks like an animated movie. By the way, the 4K videos will reach almost 50 MB/s in bitrate, and the audio bitrate is 253 KB/s. The Full HD videos at 30 frames reach 18 MB/s, and you can apply lossless zoom when filming for up to 2x. The Full HD 60 frames per second videos, such as this one, can reach 28 mega per second in bitrate. Everything is crisp, clear, very good. We're clearly above the Galaxy Note 3 and Xperia Z2, also above the iPhone 6 Plus, and about on the same level, plus a bit better than the Galaxy S5. I would risk saying that the Galaxy Note 4 has the best filming of all handsets I've tested this year. However, nighttime filming is yet again a disappointment. I haven't filmed that much because there was a huge storm and the wind was literally blowing the phone apart. This is a Full HD sample at night. It faces noise, focus loss, yellowish hue. The colors become okay when you're using the flash, at least there's that. So now let's see a video with flash at night. It's 1 AM in the morning, and that's how the flash makes the color look. A bit underwhelming, below the Galaxy S5 even, of course below the Xperia Z2 and below the iPhone 6 Plus. It's about on the same level as the Galaxy Note 3 when it comes to nighttime filming, which is kind of weak. We even tried a 4K shot, and even that was underwhelming. Okay, so much about filming. Now let's discuss the final decisions about the camera and conclusions. In spite of all the critique related to the nighttime capture, this remains a very good camera. It's above any Android model that money can buy, and also above the bulk of Windows Phone devices, plus the iOS flagships this year. When it comes to daytime pictures and videos, this model has no rival. However, in the nighttime it's below the Xperia Z2 and iPhone 6 Plus. You can even edit the shots by using the Studio feature from Samsung. Here we go, Studio. You probably already know this feature if you've seen a Samsung device before. We have adjustment with options like rotate, crop or resize. We have tone with brightness, contrast, saturation, red, green, blue, temperature and hue. A bunch of effects to play with. Portrait, brighten, airbrush, autofocus and remove red eyes, and finally decoration with stickers, stamps, label, frames, drawing and adding other images. There's also a video studio, including stuff like frames, transitions. You can even open up a video editor and add some more media. And this is where you insert transitions right here. And that's pretty much it when it comes to photo and video editing. Okay, now we're done with everything that's related to photo and video. We move to performance and software. I'm going to need the gallery yet again. And this time I want to show the temperature of this device, provided I can find it. Here we go. This is a thermometer that we used on the device, and we achieved 38.9 degrees Celsius after playing Riptide GP2 for 15 minutes, which means this model does not overheat. Now when it comes to phone calling, we're dealing here with a handset that features speed dial. It has call reject and call reject settings. We have auto reject for unknown numbers, for example, and we have very good call quality, very good signal, crisp and very loud, and excellent noise cancelling thanks to the many microphones. You can also create a custom vibration for certain contacts. Now we proceed to the benchmarks. We've done basically every benchmark known to man, so let's proceed. This is quadrant where we scored 26,312 points. This is the Exynos model, while the Snapdragon 805 model of the Galaxy Note 4 scored 17,551 points, so below us. The Galaxy Note 3 scored 21,000 points, Galaxy S5 22,000 points, the LG G3 also 22,000, and Xperia Z2 17,500, while the HTC One M8 24,000, so we beat them all with 26,312 points. In Antutu, a very impressive score, a monster score, 50,158. The Note 3 had 35,000, iPhone 6 Plus 48,000, Galaxy S5 34,000, LG G3 about the same, and the Galaxy Note 4 with Snapdragon 46,000. In Nanomark, we got 59.7 frames per second, while the Note 3 has 60 frames per second, and so does the Galaxy S5, LG G3 has 59.9 and the Galaxy Note 4 with Snapdragon 59.7 again. In Velamo, in the first test, we got 4431, while the Note 3 has 2884, Galaxy S5 1645, and the LG G3 2499. The Note 4 Snapdragon has 1883, and in the metal test, this model scores 1401, while the Galaxy Note 4 Snapdragon 1490. Next up, there's 3D Mark, provided we can find it. Here we go. A pretty low score, probably due to the fact that the benchmark is not optimized for this device. So we have 12,812, the LG G3 has 16,000, the Galaxy S5 18,000, Galaxy Note 3 19,000, and the iPhone 6 Plus 17,000. Once again, poor optimization to blame. In Geekbench 3, we have 884 in the single core test, 3,405 in the multi-core one. The LG G3 has 960 with 2,333. Galaxy Note 4 Snapdragon has 1084 with 3197. Galaxy S5, it has 854 and 2553. And finally, iPhone 6 Plus 1629, 29, 22. In GFX, we have 21 frames per second, yet another low score in the T-Rex off-screen test, while the LG G3 has 27 frames per second, Galaxy Note 4 Snapdragon 26 frames per second, and the Galaxy S5 27 frames per second. The record breaker is the iPhone 6 Plus that scores in this area a huge 44.8 frames per second. Of course, this model is a QHD one, so it loses points for the huge resolution. In the speed test, we have 20 MB/s in download, 22 in upload, while the LG G3 has 20 and 21, Galaxy S5 23, 24, and the iPhone 6 Plus 24, 20. And finally, browser mark 2594, pretty impressive, while the Note 3 had 3055, LG G3 has 1187, and Galaxy S5 3250. And the last one, SunSpider, very underwhelming, 875, the lower the better. The iPhone 6 Plus has 363, the LG G3 has 652, and Galaxy S5 413. I can blame everything on the Quad HD screen that's dropping the scores. This model manages to win 3 out of the 10 benchmarks we put it through. Of course, the benchmarks are probably poorly optimized for Quad HD for this Exynos processor, so we cannot exactly judge the device. Anyway, there is no lag here, no problem. It can run any new game, so do not judge by these benchmarks. Okay, now let's go to the OS and UI. This is Android 4.4.4 with TouchWiz on top of it. But it's a light version of TouchWiz. It has lost many of its bloatware features and even its gestures. Now let's check out the widgets, for example. Those are the home screen settings. Here are the widgets. Most of them are unique to Samsung. Some of them are pretty much stock. And here are the home screen settings, transition effects, and Flipboard Briefing. Flipboard Briefing is basically an alternative to the magazine UX. It's a special home screen with Flipboard and various topics like business, technology, sports, and you can even tap on one of them to learn more. The interface is pretty intuitive if you ask me, and you can even share stuff with these means here. So yes, Flipboard is included, yes, it gets a home screen, but you can exclude it if you want to. It's not forced down your throat. In the drop down area, you can drop it down like this. You can see the notifications, the S Finder and Quick Connect, and of course these toggles here for quick settings. You can see all of them like this, and obviously the list is open to customization. There are no more air gestures this time. Samsung decided to give them up. We have a pedometer on the lock screen, and what we don't have on the lock screen are widgets apparently. We have a shortcut to the camera here, and the settings area looks pretty much like on the Galaxy S5, only with a white background and the option to customize the upper area with the settings you like the most. You don't have to scroll as much as I'm scrolling right now. Also, if you enter the More Networks area, you'll find the Download Booster feature that combines Wi-Fi and LTE networks to give you a huge boost in download speeds. There's also special options for multi-window with pop-up view shortcut that we'll discuss later, notification panel options, including customization, some S Pen options, Air Command, Air View Pointer, S Pen alerts, turn off pen detection, and more. Finally, motions and gestures, a few of them, most have been removed, direct core, smart alert, mute, pause, palm swipe to capture, do like this and take a screenshot. Then we have accounts, cloud, easy mode, This is what easy mode is all about. It makes the interface more intuitive, it increases the size of widgets and icons, accessibility for people with various dexterity, hearing or seeing problems, blocking mode, if you want to block incoming calls or notifications if you're sleeping, private mode, it's a special area to keep secure content like secret gallery, video, music, voice recorder and other files. Then we got the finger scanner area. I already set up my fingerprint here. We have one fingerprint registered. As far as I know, you can register up to 3 fingerprints, so you can use those fingerprints to open up your device like I'm doing right now. Okay, fingerprint lock turned on. There's also an interesting aspect here. You can pay with PayPal using your fingerprint, you can verify your Samsung account, and you can sign into websites with your fingerprint, which is something different that Apple doesn't offer with Touch ID. So for starters, let me unlock the device. It worked. Finally, it works faster than on the Galaxy S5 if you ask me. And then you can cancel it and select just to swipe in order to do that. By the way, the password they ask you to input here to secure your fingerprint, it's much longer and more secure than the one that Apple requires you to input, so that's another plus for Samsung. And now let's discuss the web browser. This is it, this is the stock web browser, but you also have Chrome, and this is the virtual keyboard. Let's access Tablet-News.com. It loads in a jiffy, it's very fast, and thanks to the screen with high resolution, everything is very crisp. You can easily read the news like this without having to pinch to zoom, but you can pinch to zoom anyway. This is the tab view, that looks pretty elegant, and this is our website in landscape mode. Speaking of keyboard, very comfy to use, and a ton of input methods, including handwriting, including all sorts of movements, voice commands, and a ton of settings, as I said, including predictive test. Okay, so multitasking, it got prettier and better, as you can see right here. Those are all the apps open in the background. I can close them at once with this button, or I can check out the usage of the resources of this device like this. Okay, now let's discuss multi-window. It's a very important feature here. You can either trigger it like this. I just kept pressed the back button, so I can open the internet and the gallery at the same time, but you already knew that. Or I can access it like this. I go here, I press this area here, and now I can choose what app I want to open at the same time. From what I've heard, you can also open the camera at the same time right now, which is an evolution. So 2 ways to access this, with the back button or with the multitasking area. You can also drag and drop content from one side to the other. So for example, if you have the internet browser open, and if you have, let's see, something that you must fill in open, or maybe a picture. There are several options here. This one is called Move Content. You can drag and drop a paragraph of text or screenshot of an image into the other window. So I can drag and drop the paragraph here. Of course, it's not supported, but if it was an email, it would have been really useful. There's also an option here to make the window smaller and move it around, open it up again, and then move it across the screen, open another one up, and make your work easier for you. So then we come back to this, and we open this one here, and there are even more options to interact with. So as I said, we have content exchanging, window replacing. We also have the option to make the window float over, enlarge it to the whole screen, or simply close it up. You can also create floating windows on the screen, windows of variable sizes on top of the multi-window. So if I enter this area, as far as I know, Samsung calls them pop-up screen. So if I do something like this, a gesture of swiping from the corner to the center, I created a minimized window. This applies to a few stock apps on this device. I can increase its size if I want to, move it all over the screen, and continue my tasks while it's open, and then close it. These are 2 aspects of the multitasking. There's multi-window and there's pop-up screen. Okay, so that's pretty much it. We're done with the multitasking, and now let's pull out the S Pen. Everyone has been waiting for that, I know it. Once you pull it out, you can see this palette with 4 options available here. So we got Air Command that includes Action Memo, Smart Select, Image Clip, and Screen Write. Well, let's talk about the S Pen just a little bit. It's more grippy now. The on-off button, or better said the physical button, is better embedded. It weighs 15 grams. It supports hovering at about 15 millimeters as far as I know, and it now comes with 2048, or better said 2048 pressure levels, which is double compared to its predecessor. So let's check out the options one by one. We have Action Memo here. This is basically your note-taking application, where you can scribble out stuff that you want to remember, then you can delete it, clear all, and you can also create interactable stuff. If, for example, if you want to write a number, a phone number, you can do something like this. And if it's a website, you can access it. If it's an email, you can remember it. If it's a phone call, you can call it. So that's the interactable stuff I was talking about. Once again, you can take notes, you can open stuff up in the S-Note application, and now you have more control over the pen. You can press harder to make thicker lines, or press lighter to draw lighter stuff, which is kind of cool. Next up, we are going to see Smart Select. And there are two ways to trigger that palette, either by pulling out the S Pen or by double pressing its button. Okay, so Smart Select. This one allows you to take up an area of the screen, put it in a special place in something called scrapbook, if I'm not mistaken, and then select another area, do the same thing, and gather them all in your little book in a small floating widget on the screen, and use them later on. So we got this floating thingy going on here. You can use both of these to interact with. We also have the time and place they were taken, and we also have this option here. You can add them to my scrapbook, as I said earlier, or you can discard them, select them, and do anything you want with them. The only thing I don't know is how to get rid of them. Well, here it is, delete. Let's go back to the palette, and then after the Smart Select, we got the image clip. Basically, this one allows you to cut up an area of the screen, and these pieces of the screen will apparently auto extract pics and text separated from this area, which I find to be incredibly cool. I hope I didn't get the feature wrong, because it sounds incredible. So imagine doing something like this. Image clip, cutting up an area, and seeing this text turn to real text separately into your clipboard. You can also change the shape of the cut. And as far as I know, it's now processing. Maybe wants to cut an image from it or text. So yet another cool feature to take advantage of. And finally, the last feature of the four is called Screen Write. It's more basic than it sounds. You have, for example, a map on the screen, and you want to show your friends where they can reach you. You can draw an arrow like that. Say, this is the subway station, meet me here at 3. Or you can simply doodle on an empty screen, unlike I'm doing right now. Those are all the four features: Screen Write, Image Clip, and those two before. And what else we can have here? The S Pen will also respond to changes in pressure, as I said. And now another new feature: you can select multiple lines of text or multiple images by keeping the button on the S Pen pressed. I just selected a bunch of images by keeping the button pressed, and the same goes for text. Keeping it pressed and selecting text. With a few options associated: select all, copy, share, dictionary, find, or web search. So this is a new feature of the pen. Okay, let's see what else we got here. We can also preview stuff using the pen. You probably knew that already. So let's get rid of the selection. This time the previews will also bring forth a number of options like Screen Write, Edit, Share, or Delete, which is yet another piece of novelty. And now we get to the famous S-Note, the application that people use the most with the pen, as far as I know. This S-Note comes with a lot of templates. This is one of them. And you can use a new template. As far as I know, there are 18 templates to choose from. We got notes, meeting notes, checklist, schedule, travel note, baby diary, movie review, note, meeting note, special event. Let's maybe choose this one. And let's see what we can do here. We have a large collection of pens. And from what I've heard, there's also a special calligraphy pen that will allow you to offer a gentler input. So if, for example, if I write something like hello with my horrible writing, I can also change the thickness of the pen Hello guys. And once again, if you press harder, if you write bigger, apparently, you can change the tip. So let's go with pencil this time, and let's try a green pencil, see what happens. As you can see, the texture here actually mimics a pencil, so that's impressive. Of course, you can delete everything you want. There is the text input, and there is a very useful feature, this one here. If you activate it and you have a book nearby, it can copy the text in the image and transform it into editable text. You also have this option here, that's probably one that used to cut up stuff. And then there's the option to insert stuff. You can insert a voice memo, voice recording, image, video, illustration, clipboard, scrapbook or maps. Illustration includes clip arts. And let's see what else. There are so many options here, it's hard not to fumble around with them. Illustration, shapes. I wonder if Samsung left alone the mathematics area here. I couldn't find it, so it's probably buried here somewhere. However, keep in mind this feature. You take a photo of a note and then it becomes text. If it's handwritten text, imagine that you can actually write next to it after you've written it on paper, which is pretty impressive. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I hope I didn't miss anything from the S Note and the S Pen. Speaking of S stuff, I would like to talk about S Voice for a little bit. Now it has a feature that allows you to always listen to what you're saying, so let's try it. Hi Galaxy, today's weather. Didn't hear me. Hi Galaxy, today's weather. Today's weather. Sadly, in spite of this evolution, the voice is still robotic, the answering is still slow. However, now you can dictate text, tell it to play music, open apps and things like that. It has evolved, but it's still robotic and less friendly than Siri, Google Now and all the other solutions out there, including Cortana. And now we have reached the area of the review where we analyze the pre-installed apps on this device. First of all, let me go to the gallery, but only to show you the organization of the pics. We can organize them by time, album, events, people, scenery, documents, food, or vehicles or flowers. And we can also pinch to zoom to change their view in a very intuitive way. Some more options here, content to display, slideshow, studios, and setting. Okay, we move even further where we can find the calendar. It's basically the S Planner. And if I take out the stylus and hover above a date, you can see the event happening on that date. Of course, you can add new events, color code them, sync them with your accounts, and that's basically your planner on steroids. The list of pre-installed apps continues. So after the gallery, we have camera, music, video, calendar, S Note that you already saw. There's also scrapbook with stuff that you can store here. Then email, calculator, settings, voice recorder, my files, Galaxy apps with yet another facelift that makes it look more elegant, and even special S Pen related applications. And then there's S Health that has also evolved, and let's see how. Okay, the interface has changed a bit, and this phone now also offers, aside from the pedometer, aside from the exercise area, aside from the heart rate monitor at the back, it now also offers the oxygen saturation measurement. If it's between 95% and 100%, your lungs are fine. And now I'm placing my finger on the sensor and hoping that my oxygen saturation is okay, but after speaking so much, it may not be. So I find it hard to actually get my finger okay on it. As you can see, there's a red beam passing through it, measuring the level of oxygen in my red blood cells. Obviously, I'm not keeping the finger right. You can see here the last measurement, so at least once I managed to do it. Let's try and change hands, maybe this time it will work. Well, it still won't, but you get the idea. That's what happened the first time they implemented the heart rate scanner. People had a hard time making it work. Please feel free to come to the comments area, tell me what I'm doing wrong. You can monitor the food you eat, your weight. Finally, you can monitor sleep, which is something I always wanted, especially if you have a smartwatch from Samsung. You can even monitor the stress rate by pressing the same finger on the sensor, seeing how the sensor is stressing me. It should probably tell me how stressed I am. The last time it was in between highly stressed and not stressed at all. As far as I know, the stress level is measuring your disturbances in the pulse. And next up we have UV. This one is simple. You point the camera towards the sun, and as far as I know, there's a UV sensor on the back of the device, and it tells you if it's time to go out and get sunburned or maybe not. That's the new S Health in a nutshell. We move further to something called Smart Remote. It's your usual TV remote application with both a TV guide and a remote control for your TV set, set-top box, DVD player, Blu-ray player, and all that. Then there's Pen Up. It's a social networking and drawing community. You can see what drawings people are posting online. You can post your own. You can socialize with people. You can give them grades or ratings, favorites. People are actually drawing very nice stuff here. This is how you add your drawing. You can integrate Facebook and Twitter with it, and it's a very, very nice service. And the list continues with Flipboard, Dropbox, Evernote, Chrome, Gmail, Google+, Maps, Playbooks, Play Games, Play Newsstand, Drive, YouTube, Photos, Hangouts, Play Store, WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, and finally video editor that I downloaded myself. Okay, we're done with the huge list of apps. It's time for the verdict. On the Pro side, this model feels more solid and better grippy than its predecessor. It also comes with fast charging. Keep in mind these are the pros aspects, not the cons. So faster charging, better grip, better solidity, good acoustics, customizable screen experience. I'm talking about those modes to make the screen more or less saturated. There's also the best daytime camera on the whole Android ecosystem. We also have an excellent video capture by day, good optical image stabilization, a lighter flavor of TouchWiz with less bloatware. The multi-window and resizing windows is pretty impressive. We also like the S Pen features in spite of the lack of change. And finally, I personally like the S Health evolution. Okay, now the cons. This model is bulky, it's also massive, it tends to cut into your palm. After a long time of gripping it, it can really cut into your finger or your hand. Imagine talking for half an hour with this next to your face. It really slashes your epiderma. Okay, and the battery was slightly underwhelming at 8 hours and 30 minutes of HD video playback. I found the sunlight behavior of the screen to be disappointing. After being exposed to sunlight, you cannot exactly see what's on the screen when the sun is strong. The nighttime capture is poor, and there's not very much S Pen evolution. If you take the Galaxy Note 3, put it side by side with the Note 4, it basically has the same feature plus or minus 2 or 3 minor features. S Voice still sucks, which ends my analysis of the cons for the Galaxy Note 4. Now, before we give it some grades, there's a book here. It's called Godzilla, and I didn't want the review to end without showing you the cool feature that I mentioned before. Frankly speaking, I would have put the feature in the camera area, not the S Note area, but we do what we can do with what we have. Okay, so we have text here. Let's try keeping it steady. And that's photo note for you. Let's see what's happening. Okay, so now we have text here. We can resize it, discard it, or interact with it. So you get the idea. That was photo note in a nutshell, but let's try again and see what happens if you try to interact with that photo note, because I'm really curious about it. I slightly moved it, however the image is pretty okay. Okay, so we have properties, convert to edit or crop. Let's press convert to edit. And as far as I know, we should have text available here. I'm pretty curious if that's happening or not. Anyway, the idea is that you can write next to it, something like this. So if it's handwritten, you can write next to it. Okay, I hope I didn't bore you with this experiment of mine. And now I promised you the verdict. So here we go. We give the Samsung Galaxy Note 4 an 8.9 for design, a 9.6 out of 10 for hardware, and a 9.8 for operating system and user interface. You're probably wondering why the grade for the OS and UI is so big. Well, I like this lighter TouchWiz. I like the fact that the lag has decreased, the widgets are actually useful, and I've gotten accustomed to this area here. So anyway, for years I wanted less bloater and TouchWiz, and this is what I got. The Galaxy Note 4 gets from Tablet-News.com a 9.43 out of 10. The design may not be elegant, and the hardware is perfect, except for the battery and the nighttime camera. So pretty much close to perfection. A very good phablet, but not if you own the Note 3. The OS and UI have evolved greatly from the previous model, and the productivity software is a huge improvement here. However, the S Note and the S Pen haven't evolved that much. So 9.43 out of 10, but only if you don't own the Note 3. That's it from us. Bye bye.